So first of all, I'm thankful to International Association of Genocide Scholars for holding this session. My presentation will focus on basic issues concerning Indian legal system with regard to genocide and crime against humanity, and the study of Sikh genocide, taking a broader view of genocide as an attempt to destroy the roots of a community or a nation. So let me put it very clearly that under Indian legal system, genocide and crime against humanity as such are not crimes simply because there is no statute defining and punishing either genocide or crime against humanity. India's reasoning for not enacting a law defining and punishing the crime of genocide is that acts amounting to genocide are already punishable under Indian Penal Code. This position is absurd, however, as the physical acts of violence committed in the process of genocide are crimes under the legal systems of all countries. The recognition of genocide as a specific crime reflects the international consensus that genocide is a unique crime, often referred as crime of crimes. The result of India's refusal to enact such a law is that genocide and crime against humanity are not even investigated under the Indian legal system, let alone tried or punished. To conclude this point with regard to this vast lacuna in Indian legal system, I would say that impunity for genocide and crime against humanity is embedded within the Indian legal system, given the absence of any law dealing with these crimes. The cases related to Sikh genocide in India present a clear example of this impunity. Recently, a bench of Delhi High Court observed that neither crimes against humanity nor genocide are part of Indian domestic law of crimes. The court said that the loophole needs to be addressed urgently. The court passed this observation while announcing its verdict in a case in which an Indian politician named Sajjan Kumar, who was a leader of the then ruling Congress party, was facing a trial related to Sultanpuri massacre in Delhi. This particular massacre was part of a series of massacres that occurred throughout India, targeting the Sikh community in November 1984. When we study the Sikh genocide in India from the perspective of genocide as a crime under international law, it comes out that this case involves multiple aspects which require scholarly attention. The crime of Sikh genocide was spread over a period of time, mainly from 1984 to 1993, involving a series of massacres in 1984. And then through a series of coordinated, organized and systematic acts, including but not limited to enforced disappearances, fake encounter killings, custodial torture and killings, extrajudicial killings, and mass secret cremations. This coordinated violence falls under the physical destruction aspect of genocide and has been covered in detail by my co-panelists. If we try to determine involvement of state apparatus in genocide, we find that in case of Sikh genocide, the government machinery, political parties, the ideological groups, ideological influencers, police, paramilitary, and even army were all involved at different times to varying levels and degrees. The approach of Indian state, including the political, administrative, and judicial organs towards this genocide or crimes committed against this tiny but still largely visible community of Sikhs also offer a unique field of study for genocide scholars. The behavior of Indian society towards this genocide is another field of study which requires scholarly attention. Now I would like to discuss aspects of the Sikh genocide which encourage scholars to transcend the narrow terms of today's legal definition of genocide by taking a broader phenomenon into account. We know that genocide in general terms is defined as a coordinated plan of different actions aiming at destruction of essential foundations of life of a national group. Many coordinated acts aiming the destruction of essential foundations of life national groups are not covered under the legal definition of or legal definition which we have in present day, but those are indeed covered as a part of a genocidal phenomena. The study of Sikh genocide from these aspects especially can offer great help in understanding the phenomena of genocide in general or around the world, with a special focus on cultural genocide aspect. Let me share a brief background which may be helpful for understanding Sikh genocide from this perspective. Sikhs had suffered huge losses during partition of 1947 in terms of casualties, displacements, loss of historical places, but they had emerged as a powerful socio-political group in India. Sikhs asserted their political identity as they had their own political and social institutions. Being a community of faith, it was hard for aspiring Indian state to assimilate Sikhs. Uh, if we see other hand, India was dependent on Sikhs in many aspects, such as India was dependent on Sikhs for its food security, with the Sikh homeland Punjab feeding the entire country despite having less than 2% of geographical area. Sikh regiments in Indian Army had a vital place in terms of India's external defense. In economic sphere, Sikhs held an important role in India as they were exceptionally controlling the transport sector. And then Sikhs had a quite good share in wholesale market of many industrial commodities in India. By effectively mobilizing opposition to assert their own political autonomy and opposing India's internal emergency in 1970s, Sikhs had challenged the centralizing forces of Indian state. Thus, the Indian state's genocidal plan against the Sikhs was a kind of final solution for the Sikh problem. Now I shall try to touch upon certain aspects related to the Sikh genocide, which may or may not fall within the legal definition of genocide today, but should be covered in the study of genocide as a broader phenomenon. Faith is one of the foundational stones of a nation or a community, particularly in case of a religious community or nation like Sikhs. Attacks on physical centers of Sikh faith called Gurdwaras was carried out in 1984. Firstly, in June by Indian armed forces, including the Indian Army, and then in November 1984 by mobs led by political leaders and backed by the state's administration and police force. A recent book released last month has unearthed the fact that Indian Army had invaded at least 65 Sikh Gurdwaras in Punjab and adjoining states during June 1984. And then there is a project which is still ongoing. Initial investigation of that project has revealed that more than 300 Sikh Gurdwaras were attacked in November 1984 in India, in national capital Delhi and elsewhere. Historical records, cultural heritage, and sacred relics are yet another route of life for a community. In the case of Sikh genocide, it is a known fact that Indian Army destroyed the Sikh reference library, which was earlier called as the Sikh National Library, that was located within the precincts of Shri Harmandir Sahib, one of the central places of the Sikh faith. The library was holding numerous rare records and artifacts, including handwritten documents of the Sikh gurus, that is, the founders of Sikh faith. The destruction of Sikh reference library is important from the perspective of phenomenon of libericide also. These direct attacks and destruction of cultural heritage illustrates an intent to physically destroy a specific group while also contributing to their cultural destruction. Historical memories are yet another root of life for a community. Indian state left no stone unturned to vanish the historical memories of Sikhs, as it erased all signs of destruction and damage caused by Indian army or other Indian forces to various Sikh gurdwaras or places of historical, cultural, and spiritual importance for the Sikhs in Punjab and adjoining states during their attack in June 1984. Though the Indian state has not physically destroyed all social and political institutions of the Sikhs, they have destroyed their character by coercively enforcing the state's control over the remaining Sikh institutions. The study of Indian control over the Sikh political and Sikh political and social institutions could offer valuable inputs for understanding the phenomenon of genocide in terms of destructions of the root of a life of a targeted community. Rafi Lemkin had pointed that the genocide happens in two phases: destruction of national pattern of the oppressed group and the imposition of national pattern of the oppressor. If we bring in Naomi Klein's shock doctrine, we can envision how this happens. After physical persecution, when the targeted group or community is in shock, the preparators of genocide tries to enforce their national pattern on the targeted group. The study of Sikh genocide from this aspect can help understand it in a better way, especially with regard to practical aspects related to this process. Let me share an example with you. The Sikhs in India faced coordinated state violence and state-sponsored genocide from mid-1980s to early 1990s. In 1993, the Indian state introduced its policy of cultural invasion in the Sikh homeland of Punjab using police force. Police forces who were meant to maintain law and order forced its newly formed cultural wing upon the people and started holding so-called cultural events. Village representatives, we call them sarpanch or panchayat, or we can say village heads or elected village councils. They were forced to hold these cultural events by Punjab police. Those who refused to do so were tortured in public. This policy was implemented at a large level in Sikh majority state of Punjab in India to erase the Sikh culture and identity. Police promoted artists who were encouraging use of intoxicants, and years later, a large number of a younger generation in Punjab was in drug abuse. Most of them were, the research has shown this, that most of them were under the influence of culture promoted by the state. India's exploitative policies have also resulted in an extreme drainage of Punjab's natural resources. The allocation of Punjab's river water to non-riparian states has forced Punjab to depend on groundwater. The result is that 80% of Punjab's rural development blocks are overexploited in terms of extraction of groundwater. And then there are studies, government's own studies, which say that groundwater would vanish from Punjab in next 15 years. The Indian state has used its economic powers, including that of trade and commerce, to ensure that the state of Punjab is forced to produce crops which are required by India to fulfill its needs. Though it was clear that such a crop pattern would bring Punjab, the home state of Sikhs, to the brink of vast ecological and environmental crisis. And we are going through this crisis right now. These aspects, if studied from the perspective of destruction of essential foundations of life of a targeted group, could offer better understanding of genocide as a larger phenomena. There are various other aspects also, such as India's attempt to destroy the economic root of Sikhs, the role of economic subjugation of Punjab in the migration and forced displacement of Sikh youth population from Punjab, policies targeting younger generation of Sikhs in Punjab, which I shall not elaborate here due to shortage of time. If any student of genocide studies or any scholar linked to International Association of Genocide Scholars is interested in exploring or studying various aspects of Sikh genocide, I shall all possible help. And if there are any questions or queries, I'm happy to offer or answer that. Thanks.